environmental rights, as well as agrarian and urban issues. These are crises that are not only about environmental, but also deeply rooted in the political and social issues. It is affecting a marginalized group, it affecting farmers, affecting indigenous people, and other local communities. Because they are often to be the first to experience like displacement, dispossessions, violence, and criminalizations as well. And for us, as a civil society, we try to play some critical roles in resisting this injustice and ensuring that the government is held accountable for policies, practices, and the negligence that harms people and the environment as well. And in this workshop specifically, we will share how we collectively organized victims of ecological and agrarian conflicts to strengthen their voice and their demands by providing legal assistance for the community that is facing criminalizations or land grabbing issues, and also connecting their struggle with broader advocacy at the national and also at the international level, and also by campaigning as well. We will discuss how international human rights and environmental mechanisms, including the ASEAN mechanisms that can be mobilized to pressure states and corporations to respect environmental rights and recognize the sovereignty of the indigenous people and local community over the land and territories. Okay, so now we're going to move on with our very first speakers. It's Atitaya Ngampradit. Atitaya is from Thailand, the Community Resource Center. Aditya is a lawyer specializing in human rights and environmental justice, providing legal assistance to communities and human rights defenders affected by the violence of the risings from states and private development projects that proceed without due considerations of their comprehensive impacts. So, Aditya, can you tell us what is the current situation of environmental issues that is happening in your country in Thailand, and what are actually the goals of the civil society in Thailand, and how do you think ASEAN as a regional organization could step up with their mechanisms? Have your time.
Thank you, Vera, and thank you everyone who attend our conference space. So I'm Atitaya Ngapadit. I'm from Community Resource Center Foundation. I'm based in Thailand. And at first, I will explain you about the environmental situation in Thailand first. It's very crisis now, and it's crisis like our social and economic problems. All of these are connected. When the environmental suffers, society and the economy suffer as well. So one of the clearest example is the air pollution, especially fine and particulate matter or PM2.5, which happened in Thailand now. This is a big issue because it shows how the weakness of government control and why the government promotes industrial development as a way to drive the economy. Industrial activities also create pollution, and the dust problem harms the economy itself. After that, we have more damage for tourism, and the most importantly, damage is the public health for Thai people. In terms of the air pollution, it's not happen only in Thailand, but it is problem for the across ASEAN member, and dust and haze move across the borders, affected to the community in neighboring countries. This means the issue cannot be solved by only one country, or cannot be talked only government to government, but we need to require a strong cooperation at the ASEAN level. And we need to put for regional action to address the root cause of this pollution and to make sure that the solutions are practical, not just promised on the paper. Thailand have another pollution. I want to explain about it because it's quite big pollution for uh, our life, like water pollution. Is it because rare earth mining in our neighboring country and along the Cook River, and the mining activities harm water resource and affect to the life of the local communities. And the second one is a big issue as well. It's about the black chin tilapia. Black chin tilapia is the one of fish species. It's come to Thailand because we have some big investor of Thailand who import them for the experimental purpose, and it's spreading across the country. This issue has created long-term ecological problems, and they have been no remedies, and they have no compensation from the state to the community. Yeah, and this example that I explained you before, it shows that how Thailand often prioritize economic gains over the protecting natural resource. But in reality, I think natural resource and public health is the true foundation of the strong, sustainable economy, not only for Thailand, but for ASEAN member as well. So our our common issue is about the enforcement, because Thailand, we already has a law that comprehensive about the environmental protection, but the problem is not lack of the law or regulations, but is weak of the enforcement. One of the big obstruction is the government agencies often fail to act because of the corruption inside, or they're crossing relationships with investor and state officials, and they when they have close relationships, they have interpretations of the law to benefit to the investor. That is a big issue, and why the law is not applied strictly, and communities continue to suffer from the effect. Yes. For the mechanism that Thai people have debate is about to the establish a special environmental court. Such a court would have real expert to consider environmental case, or to order remedies and to decide on proper compensation. It is still on the debate process, still not happen in Thailand now, but it's one of the mechanisms that we think we need to have for environmental issue in Thailand. So about the ASEAN roles, what would ASEAN need to do now is I need to speaking something about ASEAN. I think ASEAN already have a framework of cooperations, and if you remember that when ASEAN leaders talk about our shared community, they often emphasize unity, cooperation, and people-centered development. And they promise that ASEAN will have peaceful, or have inclusive. But if we look at the Thailand situation, or for ASEAN member situation, I think we have to ask again that where is the community in ASEAN visions? Yes, it's a big one that they didn't active in the old framework that we have. So we need ASEAN to reactivate these frameworks and put them to the action, and ASEAN might move from words to real practice. And for declarations update, ASEAN need to improve the roles of directly affected community to participate in the decision making to solve the problem that happened in a community or each country. Yes, and another important thing that ASEAN need to do that ASEAN need to put more pressure on the member states, and it should not only provide corporate but also ensure that member states have take preventive measures to stop environmental harm before it happens. And this step is very urgent, and I think we cannot wait until the environmental harm happen and back to the solve the issue again. Yes, that is from me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Aditya. We can learn that the situation in Thailand is not only about environmental but also economy and social. How the government try to make a big project development that is only that's not only affecting the local communities and indigenous people, but also with a huge gap of corruptions as well, and also border issues regarding the air pollutions is not only affecting Thailand, but also other neighboring countries. And I think that was a really good point on what the ASEAN should improve in that matter is that to have like more dialogues for the community and for the people, and not only with the actors, country actors, and also lift up the framework of corporations that include people-centered development to be more inclusive and to be for more on the people. Thank you so much, Atitaya. I think we can move on to our next speaker.
Oh, hi everyone. My name
I
is.
will introduce you first, Kak.
Oh, okay. Sorry, there was a pause, so I thought it was time for me to jump.
It's Kak Kirat from Malaysia, from Kemban Collective. Kak Kirat is a gender consultant and advocate that facilitate a lot of consultations and capacity building within many communities, especially in children and gender issues in rural Malaysia, and has also worked with various government agencies to advocate for gender-based violence and children's rights. So Kak Kirat, I think you may have the time. You can please tell us what is the current situations in Malaysia and how put on a little gender perspective regarding the situation of it. And again, how do you think the ASEAN can improve the situation? Thank you, Kak.
Thank you so much, Vira. Hi everyone, my name is Kirat. Before I jump in, I just want to say that climate issues are not my area of expertise, which is why I'm going to include like a gender component, a gender perspective to the climate issues, which is my area of expertise. I'm taking a lot of the information and the learnings on climate issues from Climate Action Malaysia, which is an NGO in Malaysia that does a lot of climate justice work. So Malaysia is currently in a climate emergency. I think every year at the Women's March, one of the demands is to declare climate emergency, and that still has not happened. I think the climate issues across the world are putting both our present and future generations at risk, and a lot of the climate work that we do has a disproportionate impact on the poorest and most vulnerable communities. um, who cause very little of our climate impact, but suffer the biggest consequence. I'm going to cover a few of the issues throughout Malaysia and to give you a little example through of each issue so that you can understand how government, communities, NGOs, and businesses sort of like impact climate issues in Malaysia. So the first one is Malaysia's policies are deeply neoliberal, and a lot of it is extractive. So what we do is extract from nature. Then our national perspective is oil, gas, mining, cement, timber, palm oil, everything we are just pulling from nature. Yeah. This is used as a means to like fund public services, create jobs. The narrative is that all of this is very important so that we have work within Malaysia, right? Now we are trying to say that we can do this work in a greener, safer way and still achieve our climate targets. All of this is sold under the name of sustainability and business and human rights. But of course, this is a balance that is extremely difficult to meet. And it is failing to bring what it's promised, right? There's no social and economic benefit. There's only a reward for business, for the business in human rights. So a lot of this impacts vulnerable communities, especially indigenous communities in Malaysia. The government uses the right to development. They, of course, this is colonial and racist, and they go into rural areas to say that they have a right to development and then continue to carry out these extractive, detrimental pieces of work within these areas. They do not hold industries accountable, and they are definitely, the government, Malaysian government is not upholding its role as a duty bearer. We have, for example, coastal reclamation projects that is said to create more jobs, to create better, more space for more jobs. But of course, this coastal reclamation project, sorry, that word was so hard, is set to displace thousands of people along the Penang coastline. There have been many environmental impact reports that have been rejected because this is not a sustainable project. But yet the Malaysian Green Technology and Climate Change Corporation has awarded the project to the Penang state government for its low carbon city plan. Despite the concerns of the thousands of people who are going to be displaced and the environmental impact. This also, of course, shows us that there is deep concern of corporate capture, the violation of human rights, and, food security and vulnerable people who are living in the area. The next sort of example is our, under the guise of protecting our carbon sink, the forest plantation, there is a forest plantations and forest management policy that suggests large-scale forest plantations to be established within permanent forest reserves, which is so confusing because how can you save the forest and also plant things within like old forest? Yeah. These monoculture forest plantations are mostly for rubber and acacia, and they of course cannot replicate what an old forest is, right? So this is of course happens because our environmental policies are deeply corrupt, and there's a lot of political patronage and cronyism and nepotism. There's a lot of land grabbing involved, and things like that. This is malpractice, and this is corruption that directly affect indigenous people and local communities. Now, when things like this happen, the most vulnerable are affected, and the most vulnerable are women and children. So women and children constantly are paying the price for the disrespect and the corruption, and the violation of human rights within the environment, right? Another example is a large hydro in the pursuit of renewable energy. Malaysia is building a large hydro dam for renewable energy, for clean energy, right? But this large hydro dam is costing 2 billion ringgit, and it is going to drown 5,834 hectares of indigenous and community land. This shows that the Malaysian government is focused on just one section of why renewable energy is important, and not taking into account the people and the community and the culture that will be affected by it. It will displace 5,000 indigenous orang asli who are residing in the area, whose the land belongs to. This is, of course, not only bad for our biodiversity, but it's also bad for the people living there. This is a historic forest that they are planning to drown, essentially. Once again, in these spaces, women and children who have to move will be affected the most, right? Because of how care roles are divided. Women are going to be the ones who bear the brunt of trying to figure out how to live in their new reality. Sorry. I'm just reading off my notes. Okay, so Malaysia, I think also across ASEAN, often experience a lot of flooding, right? Every year there is flooding. Just like Rong said, every year there's also haze, right? So every year there's flooding, and in Malaysia, the flooding is quite extreme. Every year, Malaysia says that they're going to have a new policy. There's going to be new disaster management. There's going to be new climate. There's going to be new policy set in place to prevent flooding, to sort of also support people who've experienced flooding. They say that they should have soft and hard measures to ensure that flooding doesn't happen. But at present, there is no legislation that is addressing disaster reduction in a long-term way that takes into account climate impacts. Along with even along with the fact that we have other climate disasters like heat waves, haze, rising sea levels, a lot of landslides and coastal erosions. These are all issues we all experience in ASEAN together, right? There is a delay in a plan by the National Disaster Management Association, which now focuses on floods in which has a very narrow focus. More importantly, overall, all of these issues are very talked about by many activists, many journalists, and Malaysia has shown, the Malaysian government especially has shown a huge targeting of these activists, right? There have been activists targeted for talking about the environmental impact of government projects where they are clearing forests to do. There has been in the intersection of the environment and indigenous rights, there was also a situation where hundreds of Baja Laut people in Sabah were evicted from their homes. They are technically stateless, undocumented, nomadic people who live in Sabah. And the person who exposed these evictions was investigated for sedition. This is a common theme among Malaysian activists, where the government sort of targets them speaking out about these issues, which of course makes it more difficult for the most vulnerable to speak about the issues that the environmental issues that they are facing. Whenever there is a climate disaster, whenever there is a climate issue, women and children are most affected, whether it's accessing healthcare, whether it's experiencing the healthcare impacts of climate change, right? Like breathing problems from the haze, heat stroke from the heat, children and women are usually the ones deeply impacted. Also, because of the care role of women, they are the ones who are at the time needing to take action to sort of like access healthcare, which is also difficult if you are living in a remote rural place in Malaysia. Women also often work very informally, and women in remote rural areas work in informal selling things, making things from the land, and selling small food items or small craft items, a lot of different informal roles. Disasters happening will impact directly their ability to continue these jobs. It also makes it more difficult for them to access the resources that they need to continue working. Yeah. I think there is also, as shown by how the Malaysian government has been making its policy recommendations and also making decisions based on the climate, it is very clear that there is unequal participation in consultations of what they're supposed to do, in hearing out what community needs. I don't think that there is enough representation at the table itself when these decisions are being made. For example, the Malaysian Climate Change Action Council has a huge gender disparity. So therefore, that means the perspectives of women aren't taken into account when these decisions are being made. There's also a gap in indigenous voices at the table. And I think these are really, really, really important. I think especially these corporations, these committees need to understand that when running consultations, when making decisions, when informing people of things that are going to happen or might happen, thinking through free, prior, and informed consent to preserve cultural knowledge and to address environmental and social impacts is really important, because the people who are impacted by our decisions need to understand what the impact they will be facing, what is the trade-off that they are agreeing to. I think this is really important. Okay, I think I have gone over time, but I think some of the key recommendations that I think we should ASEAN should work together on. I think we should declare a climate emergency, like as ASEAN, right? This is an agreement that all of us should have. I think because what I'm speaking about is like gender-specific impacts on climate change. I think laws need to be aligned together with international human rights instruments like CEDAW, right? And the CRC. All of these can be aligned together to make sure that the most vulnerable are protected. And when the most vulnerable are protected, we all are protected. We have to also reject false solutions. For example, in that dam, the new dam example that I gave, like this is not a solution that prioritizes people's well-being, you know. Um, Integrate gender equality, social inclusion, and disability in renewable energy investments. And formalize gender responsive budgeting. I think, we don't have to reinvent the wheel, focus on existing opportunities for financing within gender responsive budgeting. Yeah, that's it for me.
Okay, Kak Kirat, it's actually very complex and very complete. We can see that the Malay, once again, we hear the word like corruption and nepotisms, like what happened in Thailand, and I believe also happened in Indonesia as well. And also we see how women and children are the most affected by them all, especially because women usually work through the livelihood of the specializing items probably that is they have in their home country and land, and also the experience of the disaster management that would affecting the cost of their health, women and children's health, and as well as the recommendations regarding climate emergency. That is a situation, and I think the climate emergency is the situation that is now very much being prioritized in Malaysia because it's been demands for a lot of march and stuff, right? Thank you, Kak Kirat. Now we're going to move on to our next speaker, uh, Mbak Mela. So I will
Hello, Fira.
introduce Mbak Mela a little bit. Mela is a public interest lawyer in YLBHI, or Indonesia Legal Aid Foundation, since 2022. Before, she works in the Yogyakarta Legal Aid Foundation since 2016 and has a various experience regarding human rights, gender-based violence, and also human rights defenders. And right now, she's focusing more on the social media movement and campaign department. In YLBHI, also, she is developing a grassroots movement through social media called Para Media YLBHI as a tool for advocacy. But Mela, maybe you can start by giving us pictures on what happened in Indonesia and like probably how do you do advocacy, probably through campaigning as well. And how is it? Do you have any recommendations for the ASEAN also? Okay, you may start.
Thank you, Fira, and everyone. My name is Meila. I'm from YLBHI, Indonesian Legal Aid Foundations. Pardon me if someone's coming over the camera. Yes, that is my boy. Motherhood time right now. Yes, thank you, Vera. Listening to what Atitaya and Kak Kirat speaking about the situation in Thailand and in Malaysia, that was also happened in Indonesia, whereas this is the biggest country we can say in ASEAN, and also the biggest deforestations happen in ASEAN. We can say because all the forest is here. Even in even in Kalimantan, which is side to side by Malaysia, we also have the same things happens. Also, what happened with the cross-boundary pollutions between Sumatra, Singapore, and Malaysia. That was also being one of the most important things here. But if we want to say about something on environmental issues across Indonesia, we can say much, but in these occasions, let we start with 5 years before or 5 years this time. So, yeah, so I have some presentations, maybe the host and the co-host can, yes. I will share you some. Yeah, this is presents by, that's actually the theme. And this is also the question on how my organizations as the law organization seeing the battlefield between indigenous rights, environmental conflicts, and also what is happens with all the marginalized group between. I think we can say that the current situation is the same as everyone's speaking before me. Like even Prabowo and also before is Jokowi, which is saying that the natural resources, we can say, and the environmental is owned by the state, but then they do not really thinking about the welfare of its people. Also, of course, between all these environmental conflict lead to another intimidations, and also intimidations, harassments, and etc. to the environmental human rights defenders. Of course, we see the linking between all these political things happens into what is impacted to the community, not only to their environment but only to their life. We can say, of course, previously about the deforestations, about the criminalization, it's all happens in one link. We can say at the first things, this is concerning the regulation in these 5 years. The government said, and the government is really concerned about these four things. One is the mineral and coal mining law, the omnibus law on job creation, the forestry law, the presidential decree on PSN, our national strategic project. I can say two things. The important about coal and mining industry. Sorry, all those four things. The first is the national strategic project, the coal and mining industry, the job creation law, and also the forestry law. All those things, of course, link to the oligarchs. We can say that one because we get the good impact from all those regulations. Of course, which is oligarch which happen. But then again, the national strategic project which is happens in the Jokowi's era, it is not only in Jokowi's era, but previously we have the same regulation but with another name, starting from SPA era. But then again, this is a very push into the regulation on Jokowi's era with many regulations. The national strategic projects, we can say this is a project and a program run by the governments, local governments, and business entities with strategic impact to increase growth and equal development. This is what they said. But then again, of course, many things happens in the ground, like grain grabbing issues, deforestation issues, and also all the environmental impacted happens by these national strategic projects. My organization, YLBA, is right now filing the lawsuit against these regulations, which is not really equal to others, which is not really giving the welfare to others. But one again, they also give um, uh, one regulation saying that these things happens for all the welfare of the peoples in Indonesia. This is what we can say about the National Strategic Project in Indonesia, which is the highlight project among the governments. We can say there are, of course, violation of freedom of assembly and expressions. You cannot say a peak here because there is no public participations among the community, and also there are violation of access to justice, like the criminalization to the one who is speaking about the truth and about their land. Also there are arbitrary arrests, obstruction of legal assistance, etc. Also, we see many violations of the right to life, Many violation of the right to public participations because almost all the national strategic project doesn't include locals or indigenous people on decision-making level. So in these presentations, we are really focusing on how these political, economic, and environmental issues lead to environmental conflict and lead to the violation and many violation, human rights violations, and also destruction of law to the impacted communities. This is what the number of cases we have right till now. This is not 5 years, but I think 3 years later. We put the number here like 61 to the data on effort to reclaim community land and territory, and also there are criminalization of local communities and indigenous peoples. This is what we can say right now about the case, but then again, there's many victims in one cases. My organizations, YLBI, have 18 local offices, but then this is not really covering all Indonesians province, which have 34 right now. So then this data is not really showing how the conflict is really happening in the whole Indonesian area. This is just another cases happens in the case of intimidations and harassments around the public defenders. So what is the last question Shwira mentioning before is, so what can ASEAN do to improve? As I know, ASEAN is also have what Atitaya said before. ASEANs have these recommendations and also one bill, as I not if I'm not mistaken, is about the human rights defenders issues, and also another issues on business and human rights defenders, if I'm not mistaken. But then again, what can we say right now is through these institutions we can say, because we see still there is a hub to ASEANs which they can be a centralized institutions which can improve environmental issues by harmonizing policies, fostering cross-sectoral collaboration, and increasing public and private sector engagement through initiatives, including by promoting and implementing the ASEAN Declaration on Environmental Rights, and to recognize the term of indigenous peoples as a community that is most affected by government initiative regarding environments. But then again, I want to add some other things from the first question that Vira raised about the community. This is not only happens because the governments didn't really give the attention to the people, but then again, the people we cannot really giving help to go to the government, of course, but then again, we need to take these helps, we need to take the justice from the government. So then this is what the community doing right now. So my organization lastly in last 3 years is working with the power of social media, which is showing the very pure or very number one information from the community, what is happening to their land, and also what is happening to the community about the environmental conflict. So I will stop here. Vera and others discussion may happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Mila, for your insightful story. We hear a lot of more like a social issues and political issues, including intimidation, criminalization for the local communities, and also the indigenous people. And it was also based on regulation as well. And I think this is also happening to Thailand and Malaysia as well, as our friend said earlier. And this is already a common issue for us as Southeast Asians. So probably now, before we get back into our speakers for their last inputs, I want to give the mic to the floor if there is any question, or is there any recommendation that we would like to add regarding the situation that we have been discussing as well. If there's any question or any inputs, you can raise your hand, or you can just write it in the group, in the message bar.
Hi, all. This is Leusha. Can I continue?
Sorry?
This is Leusha from Modis. I thought to add something about the social media impact.
Okay, sure, go ahead.
Yeah. Hi, Veera and Mela. Athia, everybody. Nice to see you all. I just wanted to add that currently government seems to be kind of responding only to the pressure of the social media and how fast it is actually going around in each country. In Modi's also similar things that even for the things like corruptions and these kind of things is only responded if there is a strong social media response from the locals. So in this regard, I think we are at a place where we have to make our media also free from the corporate hold which media is having everywhere. Where the corporate people and politicians in Modis is actually having they are the owners of the biggest media other than the government media here. The government media only give their narratives and it's like kind of a propaganda media, and the corporate media they only promote their own business leaders to come into politics or to just again like a propaganda kind of a media. So I think it is very important that media also become free, and we find a way where the both media and the free what we call environment activists or the HRDs also have resources or maybe common resources to get access to internet. For me, like few years back, I was a common person that I couldn't get access to media. I didn't have money to do reload for my internet packages. I wasn't able to join awareness programs like this. So, if more can be shared, how we can have a shared kind of resources and how we can actually stop uh, reduce the internet blockage that we are facing when national kind of issues are being raised. I thought to add these points, and maybe we can have a better kind of uh, solution to this. And currently also I want to add there is Commonwealth Foundation has actually opened in its October 23rd, and expression free media and these things is one of the thematic areas for funding. So that also I thought to add. Thank you.
Thank you, Aisha, for your inputs and recommendations. Yes, we do totally agree that some government and corporate only giving us such propaganda infos. It's also happening in Indonesia, and for things like internet blockage, it's happened a few times in Indonesia as well, in Papua area. But then after that, people that is in other part of the cities were informing that, so people from that area could speak up, even though they're not the ones speaking up in the internet or in the media. So, but we are the voice of their concerns as well. Maybe if Mbak Mela or Kak Kirat or Room wants to add to that.
Yes, I have some. Okay, sorry. I have something to add about the social media in Thailand when the human rights defender or some of NGO try to promote corruption activity on the social media, they have some drawback when we use the social media because second party or third party can sue us in defamation to the court, to the like a criminal court, and that is very obstruction for us because we say it's a lab case because we need to stop anything about our social media for a while, and uh, for the human rights defender who do that, or for the journalists who try to promote the corruption activity on the social media, they will stop everything, and we didn't have some of alignments anymore because they have risk to do again and again. This one is, I just want to add about the drawback of the social media in Thailand as well. Yes, that's for me. Thank you.
Kirat, do you want to add? Thank you, Rome. How about Camila? Do you have anything to add about social media usage on environmental movement?
Yeah, I think this is not only on social media, Aisha, and thank you for your concern about this one. But then again, on how media are used to handle all the information regarding with the conflict on environmental issues. At the first is from the social media. The first thing we do right now is gathering all the, we can say, the many experts on social media to talk about the real thing, the fact on how what is on how the environmental impacted to the community right now, the factual things, and also on the media's also some organization, especially for the environmental organization right now focusing on, like bring together the media's news, and give many brief to them on how the situations, and this and when it is not happen because like trial and error, etc., they build their own media. So what we are doing right now is also we build our own media by many social media and website that's very really very effective. Whereas mostly in Indonesia, for the context, the government is really saying all the information across social media and media. So then again, the power of the people speaking the truth about the fact on their line, we can blow it up on social media, but of course it have a risk behind. But then this is at least what we can do, also to maintain the solidarity among the peoples. I will stop here. Thank you.
Okay, I think Kaisha has a question in the chat box. I think we need a national level internet sharing for journalists, activists through Starlink or something, and from the national level to international. Is that a feasible approach? Can space, equipment, and internet sharing could be way forward? Is there anyone wants to answer to that before we move on to?
We have I will tell the stories on the experience of Papua's people in last 4 or 3 years. They have internet blank spot in Papua, whereas we cannot say anything to the world about Papua's conflict. So but then so after that we sue them. But then again, in the case of Maldives, is we can what I understand from Isaac speaking is we cannot see wait, we cannot we can see that like sharing together by starting as a we can do that one. And as I know, Aisha, this is for the exit strategy. Many organizations giving many funds for emergency things, especially for information regarding information, internet, and etc. I think we can have the access to that one. If the governments cannot give access to the community, so then the community can have access from everywhere. And the second, again, experience from Papua, because there is no much information we can say about Papua from Papua. So there's many Papuans people telling the story to another people outside Papua, like Jakarta, Java, and etc. So we are the one who is speaking about the current situation in Papua, because they have all those risks and all those cut informations from the island. So then this is like a transfer informations to the second options. So then this second option organization will speak about Papua outside. If I'm trying to see from the experience here. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Mbak Mila. Also, I think we have an input from Megan. Kak Megan said, I would like to add that we should not demonize palm oil itself. Rather, it is human greed that has driven widespread deforestation, leaving many rural and remote communities without access to clean water, safe road damage by heavy trucks, and even basic electrification. In Sabah, Malaysia, there is a palm oil estate that boasts a 5-star golf course, yet surrounding infrastructure is so poor that it's reaching it can take nearly 10 hours. Thank you so much, Kak Megan. I think because it's already past 2 minutes from our time, maybe we should just move on to probably if all of our speaker would have to say any other words probably for closing. Just 1 minute each. From Kak Kirat, maybe you first.
Okay. I think climate change is here, and it is real and important and urgent. It has, as ASEAN, it has implications for all of us in Southeast Asia. I think these are urgent priorities, and we as ASEAN need to recognize that climate change is felt across the region, in communities, and we need to sort of work together and start with how community exists and work through our solutions from the bottom up that way, right? So that they are practical, they reflect cultural needs and norms, they take into account the most vulnerable, and it is people-centered.
Okay, thank you so much, Kak Kirat. Atitaya, just 1 minute. Thank you.
Yes, for me, I think if we can achieve our goal, that what we want to push our situation to the ASEAN, if it's successful, I think we be not only protect to the environmental, but is protect our rights, our health, our stronger solidarity, and our sustainable future together. In terms of ASEAN member, yeah. Thank you.
Okay, lastly from Camila.
I want to say that climate crisis has no identity card. So then it will be cross boundary and etc. Whatever with ASEAN's things. So then the government, for example, Indonesian government cannot only do themselves, but then again, who can unite everyone? Of course, the ASEAN's institutions, which can say better, and the community agree with everyone must uphold all the solidarity among us. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for our 3 speakers. I think it's really nice to have all women speakers talking about environmental. I would like to thank you so much also for the participants and listeners, and also for the committees of the ASEAN People Forum. Hope to see you there next month as well. Once again, thank you so much.
Thank you,
Anyway,
everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you,
everyone.
everyone.
Thank you.
Recording stopped.